Well, hi everyone, and welcome. This is Kim Grable, and this is ART204 Drawing 1. And we are in week 5, and I hope things are going to get a lot more interesting and challenging. We are going to be working with drapery and metal, which sounds extremely daunting. And I guess it is, but it's not impossible. I think you can learn to do a really great job with these different types of materials. Um, we're going to be working with chrome, metal, and drapery, and I'm hoping that some of the like the I do a tutorial here in a minute about driving about drawing an old car with faded paint but lots of chrome. And I've also created some sample drawings for you that I hope will be a help to you in your week 5 worksheet. So let's look first at a metal object. How do you even decipher what's what? You have, of course, the handle at the top to lift the pot's top, and then you've got side handles as well. To keep everything in perspective, you will have a main light source, and that is extremely important. As important, maybe more so, than the light source you've been rendering on these basic shapes. This is kind of what you've been getting ready for, these more complex shapes. You have, again, with this pot, you have kind of a spherical and a cylindrical and a flat sphere in this area and this flat sphere at the bottom. And this is like a cylinder in a lot of ways. So you can, and of course, this looks cylindrical as well, the handles. So you can see where this is nothing more than the basic uh, objects put together in a certain way to form this shape of this metal pot. You have also light that wraps around this object. Now it gets awfully dark over here, but your light source is probably somewhere around here. Okay, because you've got a nice hot reflected light area here and on this handle for the top, as well as a pinpoint highlight on this area of a handle. And then this handle has some really hot or very bright highlights. A little bit of highlight here too on the bottom. Um, and then you have more detail than you would normally have on a cylindrical shape like this. You then have, first of all, let's start with shadow. Little lighter on the edge, then very dark. And then this builds into lighter, lighter, lighter until you have reflected light. Your reflected light becomes darker, darker, darker in bands of color. So if you're using the side of your pencil, you're going to make very shallow or short uh, strokes here, and then merge them together or rub them together with, say, a paper stump. And then right here in the center, you've got a super reflected dark shadow that, again, you pick up a little bit of light on this curvature going away. You also pick up some light over here, but from here on, it just becomes darker, darker, darker until it's practically black on this surface. Here's your cast shadow, and your cast shadow also has a reflected light right bouncing off of this reflected light as well. So this is how these metal objects are created. Probably one of the best things to do as you build and as you draw these uh, extreme detail objects like these metal pots is keep this image, maybe print it out and look at it, or set it aside as you do your worksheet, and always have it available so you can kind of read where the light source and the darkest areas of these metal pots are. Okay? Now, in painting, this area of reflection that bounces this white light would be created in white with white paint. Not so with a picture like a drawing, a graphite drawing on Canson Bristol board is what you're working with. And to get this nice bright white, you're going to rely on your erasers. You're going to use your kneaded eraser quite a lot, but also your pink pearl and your plastic eraser will help you very much, especially in these really sharp highlights. The way I do those is I get an X-Acto blade, and then I cut a super sharp edge, very tiny, on either the plastic or the pink pearl, and then literally draw this with the eraser as if the eraser was a pencil. Same with these highlights as well. Use that eraser as not just a remover of graphite, but a an exposer of that white, very white paper beneath. This is, and I'll go through this fairly quickly because you will probably not deal with something like the detail of this old car. But if you're going to use something like this and you don't maybe want to drive an old car into your apartment, um, perhaps you're going to draw from a photo that is something that you can't maybe just set up on a tabletop, then a really reasonably sharp digital piece or digital photograph is what you need to work with. Okay, the way you create something this detailed, I'll kind of talk you through it, but um, I always start with a super, super faint outline. I'm not too worried with um, anything but form at this point. If the headlight is round, I'm going to just try to draw as close as I can a circle, and so on. I want to break this into the very basic shapes that I can using a very light to moderate pencil touch. I might even use an H pencil to get a sharp edge or a sharper edge. But remember, I want to come back in later and probably erase a lot of this. So don't get too dark with those basic loose sketches. And then I'm going to just build. I'm going to build the basic shapes. I'm going to fill in the details. And something this detail will take a long time. And I know you don't have a huge amount of time to spend building these illustrations. So I don't want you to necessarily feel like, you're going to be stuck drawing things for hours and hours. Try to get, especially for your still life drawings, try to get something very simple. maybe a teapot, any kind of metal, uh, just any kind of, and I've got some examples to show you. But going back to this detail surface, once I've sketched all the details, and you notice these are fairly sharp, very even sketches of lines. I'll use a straight edge sometimes on some of this stuff. Uh, so don't be afraid to do that. The two methods I use to build darkness or detail is I apply graphite to the paper with pencils, of course, or I create graphite powder, meaning I scrape from charcoal or a thicker lead pencil and then use my paper stump really sharpened to put in these detailed, kind of thin details. Couldn't say thin. Um, Now, you've got some ways to render other than just sort of using the side of your pencil and just literally dragging back and forth. You can use that, which this is basically a form of cross-hatching. Let me show you some others. This is cross-hatching, very light and big cross-hatching. You can also use circulism, which is basically taking the side to point of your pencil and making circles and just continue, continue, continue until they become almost like a solid. And look how close circulism is to blending. Now, I would not recommend this. Stippling looks very cool, but it will take forever and it will make your hand and arm hurt badly. So don't use this. The short dashes, some of you use, and it looks amazing. So I would, go with cross-hatching, circulism, of course, blending, short dashes, stay away from stippling. And I tell you that out of experience. This is a very cool, I didn't unfortunately draw this, but this is a great example of directional cross-hatching to show depth and light source and cast shadow. Isn't it cool? I mean, it's just so wonderful and so exciting to see. Now, they used a white pencil, as you can see, to really do the super highlights. I would recommend, and it looks like this was drawn on newsprint or something light, a little darker or not as high quality as a Bristol board. So cross-hatching, circulism, of course, blending, and stay away from stippling. So I had an assignment, years ago where I did um, portrait drawings of all these different corporate um, bigwigs in a company, a large company, and it was like 30 different people, of course, all guys, and it was a Head and Shoulders, and they all wanted the stippling, and the stippling is beautiful when you do it right and when you spend a lot of time with it. And doing 30, portraits was murder. I literally had to have surgery on my hand and arm afterwards because I had just kind of devastated the musculature and some of the nerves. But anyway, stippling's wonderful and it's beautifully done, but please stay away from it until you're really good at some of these other techniques like cross-hatching and circulism and blending. Now, the second part of this is once you start building your tones, um, you can use like a cotton swab or a paper stump, a piece of paper or even a paper towel or a tissue, or use your finger, uh, and use very soft, like 5B through 8B, uh, very soft pencil lead to to blend, and if you want, and use a cross-hatching technique in certain areas of this detail, like in here. That's a very, very, uh, I zoomed on it so you could see, very detailed and very specific, uh, very tiny cross-hatching, but it will work and you don't have to necessarily blend it. Work in darker tones with a soft leaded pencil. And when you want to hit those highlights, go back to your erasers and let your erasers do that. Lay down all of your base tones. And notice when I get to the details of the car, of the old car, um, these are pretty loose, pretty loose strokes. They're blended, of course, and this is all blended, but this is fairly loose. Because it's not, I mean, I think it's like an old Buick or something, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be tonal. Okay. But notice how loosely things are drawn at this point. Even though they look very detailed, they're pretty loosely drawn and lightly shaded, um, except when you've got like sharp highlights and very sharp dark areas. Okay. So as you build more detail, a really neat trick to use, if you have colored pencils, and if you don't have color pencils, then just go buy a black um, color pencil, just the one. I think you can buy just the black color pencil and the white color pencil. Go and buy a black one. And these super dark areas, make them with that black color pencil, and they will be so rich and beautiful, and it will add such a dimension to your detailed drawing. Here's the detail of the the headlight. I use the pink pearl and the plastic erasers for the really detailed work, and then I just literally wear out the kneaded eraser, because I'm always pulling and stretching and cutting at it, and it, it's to be used like that. So work it hard and work it carefully. Now, when you get to chrome, the chrome is the super shiny parts of a car. And I always, when I start working on chrome, I like to work very loose with it at first. So I make a small little pile of graphite powder from my pencil, put it on a cotton swab, and kind of work in that detail on the chrome, like especially in here. Now, it's not done with a pencil. It's really done with just a little tiny little cotton swab, a little, tiny little cotton thing on a piece, on a little stick. And that's perfectly fine. It saves you a lot of work, because a lot of this detail you can kind of skip through it pretty quickly with something. I know I did this part with cotton swab. And you see how loose it is, but doesn't it look sharp and in detail? It does. And you don't have to kill yourself to get it done. Um, so I'm going to just kind of go quickly through this. That's a super tight shot of the detail. And you can see where I've used that black color pencil to really lay in some sharp, sharp and dark areas. uh, and just slowly and methodically render. Now, something like this takes a few hours, and you don't have a few hours. I mean, you do, but you don't have hours and hours to devote to this. So I want you to do the best job you can uh, with the details that you see, and then let it be as it is. Let me show you some graphite on white samples that will, I hope, help you. Now, I use my pencil leads. I sharpen them down until the lead is like an inch or two long, and then I just rub against like a little piece of sandpaper to get this to a long, sharp point. And the reason I do that is so I can use the side of the pencil for shading, that kind of thing. Let me show you some more. And see the pencil? Another, see the pencil? um, Now, I did not do this. Wish I had. It's very beautiful. But here's graphite pencils on white Bristol with soft shading across the surface of the cup. And this is very definitely metallic. And notice it's all blended and cross-hatched. Isn't that lovely? That's such a nice image. I did not do this one as well, and I wish I could say I did. But isn't this lovely as well? It's picking up not only shadows in the room, but also the water spots left by the dishwasher um, or washing. They needed new dishwashing tablet, probably. Look at this. This is just such gorgeous detail. And when you pare it down to just bits and pieces, it's no more um, it's very detailed, but it's no more complex than the basic shapes you've been drawing. And I just wanted to zoom a little so you can see, especially in here. These are just striations with your pencil. Okay, let's see what else we have. I just have a few more. I did not do this, but there are areas that you're going to focus on to show some really tight detail. And then the areas you don't want to show as much detail, just let it fade or appear loose. This whole area could appear very loose. More samples. This is not mine either, but look how super rich the detail is. And this is almost like when you draw water and you do like a vertical sweep with your paper stump to make it look reflective. And then finally, this reflective, super rich detail like a marble or a metal sphere. Now let's skip to drawing drapery. Drawing drapery is easier. Um, Start with a quick, loose sketch of your drape and set up a model. Uh, um, like your a sheet. Sheets are wonderful because they have so much, um, especially cotton sheets, because they have so much drape and sharp edges and that kind of thing. Then gradually build your depth. Don't worry about backgrounds at this point. And then start shading and sharpening your depth with these soft pencils. Here's another sketch, basically with cross hatching. Don't try to get every detail of the folds. When you first start, just use sketchy cross hatching lines to capture reality. It works beautifully. And, practice your cross hatching a little bit and see which looks the best. And then if you wanted to detail this even further, then you could go into these darker areas with a paper stump or your finger or something to really soften those shadows. Now, this is a drape with a background. Um, Building a background takes a lot of time and effort. If you want to just build drapery, I will be very happy about it. Don't feel like you have to build very detailed and very specific backgrounds because they're very hard to do. Sketch in the dark areas and then smooth with a tissue or a paper stump. That's exactly what I did here. And then when I zoom up, this is the detail. This area right here is this little area. And it's not much to it except dark and light. And these areas here, especially this, some of the lighter areas, this especially, are all with erasers. More drapery. This was actually done by a student. Very, very nice. This is called ultra reality, and this takes forever. So don't try this at home. But I want to show you this one in particular. It is so beautiful, isn't it? And it's just just an old sheet tied on a like a wooden bar. Just the folds and the fabric and the stitching. It's just a beautiful, beautiful piece. So that's, I believe, let me make sure, that's all I have this week. I'm hoping this will be very helpful to you. If you have questions or difficulties, be sure and reach out to me. Thank you, and we will talk soon. Take care.